Back in 2012, when I got my first DSLR, the Canon 1100D, one of the questions that kept bugging me over the next couple of years was, if I upgrade my camera body, will it give me better images? Now, I did upgrade eventually to the Canon 760D. And then as I moved forward in my photography journey and I needed full frame for photography work that I was then undertaking, I invested in the 6D Mark II and recently have invested in the Canon 5D Mark IV. But going back to that original question that I had in my formative years as a photographer was, does an improvement and an increase in camera body lead to improved images? So with an upgrade in your camera body, does it give you better images? I've done some tests. Now this is a landscape photography test. This is not a portrait test. It is not a night shoot test. It is none of those bits. For now, this is a landscape photography test. And also it is not a professional landscape photography test, but they are everyday shots. And that's what I wanted to do, a real world test for real world use. So we've took 3 cameras out into the field. The Canon 760D aps-c 24 million pixel camera released in 2014. The Canon 6D Mark II full frame 26 million pixels released in 2017, and the Canon 5D Mark IV full frame 30 million pixels released 2015. So now the price have changed, obviously, and they've all dropped. The 760 isn't in production anymore. But in terms of that upgrade, what does that money buy you in terms of image, not in terms of function and functionality and ergonomics and weather sealing? This is about the image. Let's get straight into it. For our first test, we went to Cleveland, which is on the northwest coast of the UK, and we took a shot of Mary's shell. It was coming up sunset, the sun was going down behind our shooting position, so we shot. I wasn't trying to test the dynamic range, I was just trying to get an everyday shot. And actually where I shot from was where there was another photographer, and I thought, well, if I go alongside him, that's somebody who's shooting real world and shot the same direction, the same way. And we got that shot across 3 camera systems. So let's take a look. So looking at the 3 images that we've got here, you can probably tell, due to lens distortion, which one has come from the crop sensor. But look beyond that, into the detail of all 3 of these images. You can see into the shadows inside of the shell well enough. You can make out the writing that somebody has popped into the dirt on the inside there. You can see well into the background. It is focused across the image. All the focus points were on the shell itself. You see the reflections, the golden reflections of the shell into the sea. The sky has been reproduced fairly well for what it was. So next up, we headed to Bondi Beach, which is a little bit further south along the northwest coast. So this was a test of the ISO and noise production levels of each of the cameras. One of the benefits of full frame over crop is their low light performance, and that was to bear out here. So we tested again the 3 cameras. We were at f8, we're at 1/800th of a second, and in order to get the exposure to where it needed to be and the histogram to where I wanted it to be, that meant an ISO of 3200. If we take a look at them, I've done some processing to them. I did the processing based on the 5D Mark IV version and then synced across to the other 2 cameras. So we had some lens correction in there, pulled the shadows a little bit, messed around a tiny bit with the contrast and a fraction with the exposure, and added noise reduction to a level of 25. As you can see, the 6D and now the 5D Mark IV are pretty similar. The straight out in RAW, the 6D Mark II looked slightly cleaner. The 5D Mark IV looked slightly sharper. And that's probably to be expected because there's more pixels on the 5D Mark IV. They are on the same size sensor, they are slightly smaller. And so the 6D Mark II absorbs light better because it's got a slightly larger pixel area. But the 5D Mark IV has better resolution, so it resolves it sharper. So they level out. Now, against the 760D, they did show vast improvement. 3200 was absolutely usable on both of the full frame cameras. On the 760D, as you can see here, there was quite a lot of noise in that image. But again, for most people, for what most people are using them for putting images onto the web or printing out at small sizes, it is still absolutely usable with a bit of post-processing and some noise reduction added. On to our last test now. So this was a test of the dynamic ranges of the cameras. We went to a waterfall near Tarnhouse in the Lake District, and on each of the cameras on the histogram, which is how I was exposing for the image, we found that the 5D Mark IV on the histogram on camera didn't clip. The 6D Mark IV touched the edges at the same exposure, and the 760D did clip out, but not vastly. So that showed the dynamic range differences between the three cameras, and that bore out with the images that we're looking at. Now the 6D Mark II was very slightly darker than the 5D Mark IV, and again the histogram shown in Lightroom showed that it was a little bit closer to clipping. The 760D did clip slightly. All of those images were pullable back with some post-processing. So what is the conclusion from all of this? Well, the conclusion that I would give you is that there is absolutely benefits to upgrading your camera system, but the benefits will be more obvious if you have pushed the camera system that you're currently on to the maximum. Have you found what it is that your current body cannot do for you? Because if you have, that's how you know what camera system to move on to next. But if, like me, when I was first starting out in photography, and for a couple of years after, I was being swayed by this marketing belief that I needed to get a better body in order to produce a better image, the answer to that is no. There is nothing that will take a better photograph than you. The person holding the camera is more important than the camera or the lens. Their know-how and their knowledge of how to get the absolute maximum out of the camera that they are using is far more beneficial than upgrading the camera body, because you will get the same results. So don't listen to the marketing. Go out there and improve your use of your camera. Make sure you are stretching it to the maximum. And if you are interested to know why, hey, the guy who's telling us not to upgrade is sat there with a 760D, a 6D Mark II and a 5D Mark IV, well, you can go and you can click this video here to find out exactly why I went and bought a 5D Mark IV in 2020 and the reasons why I bought that over an EOS R and why I felt that I needed to buy that camera. So yeah, I'll see you over on that one. For now, ciao.